developing cancer treatments for patients that are currently lacking therapeutical options. And it's now my pleasure to introduce the CEO and the chairman of the board of Hamlet Pharma. It is Mats Persson and Catharina Svanborg. Please join us here on stage. Or is it maybe only you, Catharina? Yes.
Hello.
Warm hand.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure to be here. Hello, everybody. Since this is a new venue for Hamlet Pharma, I would like to introduce myself a little bit more elaborately than normal. So I'm a medical doctor, professor at Lund University since 39 years of age, fellow of the Royal Swedish Academy of Science since the last millennium, and also the leader of a very active and productive research group for quite a while. We have been focusing on two areas. One is, of course, cancer research, and the other is infectious disease and immunology. And we realized several years ago that our findings had great potential to help people with important diseases. And so we were looking for a mechanism and organization to develop this, because as you know, the university does not do development. The university does research, and at that time, there was no infrastructure available. So if I may have the first slide, please. Yes, there it is. We have, to this date, continued to develop an organization to take scientific discoveries to the clinic and the market. And the mother company here is Naventus Pharma, that has been the mother of the discoveries and established a platform organization that we use to do this development. It's like a pilot drug development company with competence from structure and molecules all the way to production and the clinic. And the spin-offs, of course, are Hamlet Pharma, that is the focus today, where we are developing Hamlet as a cancer therapy, and also Select Immune Pharma, also listed on Spotlight Market, which is developing into phase 2 interesting therapies. Naventus Pharma is also the mother of new exciting projects that we'll have to talk about some other time. So Hamlet Pharma develops a novel concept for treating cancer with better precision. It all built on a discovery that we made in the lab, where we found that cancer cells, when treated with the human milk fraction, actually died. The bacteria also disappeared. So what was going on? The milk fraction contained Hamlet, the first member in a new class of cancer-killing molecules, consisting of a milk protein and a fatty acid. And when those form a complex, they kill tumor cell efficiently. We have tested many different tumor cells, and they all die with similar characteristics. We worked extensively on the mechanism of action, and I'm happy to say that the tumor cells die with an apoptosis-like mechanism. Apoptosis is a nice form of cell death, as many of you know. And this means that when we treat tissues, even patients, this kind of cell death is not accompanied by toxicity, unlike many other cancer drugs. So the molecules that we are working with are somehow instructing tumor cells to die without being toxic, without destroying their healthy neighbors. The first indication that we have focused on is bladder cancer. And bladder cancer is common. It's dangerous, and it's difficult to treat. Bladder cancer is the most expensive cancer in the US due to its recurrence rate and the poor treatment options that are available. So our approach is to do what other drugs are also given this way, to give our drug into the bladder with a catheter repeatedly while the patient is waiting for surgery. To do this, we couldn't use Hamlet. It's a big molecule. It's difficult to produce. And we were lucky enough to identify the N-terminal peptide domain of the protein as the active site. So we are now producing a fully GMP-certified molecule with polypeptide and Recon in Malmö, which is active, which is reproducing the tumoricidal effects of Hamlet It works in animal models, and as I will show you, it also works in patients. And we have valid patents for quite a while into the future. Our platform is allowing us to take this discovery all the way to the clinic through the different steps that you recognize, animal models, different animal models to make sure that this works, that this prevents cancer development. GMP production, as I mentioned, safety and toxicology, that is done, of course, by an external CRO. We have international contacts established since many years where international colleagues who are experts in bladder cancer are actually doing the clinical trial and have taken this through to the clinical phase where we are now in late phase 2. Our first, the phase 1/2 study, was finished last year, and we had no drug-related safety issues, reduction in tumor size, increased cell death in the tumor, apoptosis, increased shedding of tumor cells and fragments. The compound goes directly to the tumor and breaks it up, and also uptake of the drug. And we published this last year in Nature Communications. You know, we had, over the last period, we have 4 Nature publications in different Nature journals. It's quite a record also for us. So the next challenge was to find the suitable treatment dose, and we have finished a dose escalation study where we have the same endpoints but show an even stronger effect on the tumor. Let me just give you a couple of images here. These are 2 different patients, urine samples. They get the substance, and after 2 hours, the urine is full, completely full of tumor cells that break off from the tumor are shed into the urine. This is a fragment, this is a piece of tumor that we can see. And this process is dose dependent. The placebo group don't show it, the low dose and the high dose. This is the pattern of uptake. The red color here is our drug, alpha-1, and you can see how well it is taken up into these things, which are tumor cells. And again, a dose-dependent effect. And the apoptosis, the nice cell death that we can register directly in the patient. So with the blood cancer development, we are currently here. So we have the phase 1/2, the dose escalation are completed, and we are now moving towards phase 3 and towards interactions with the FDA and the EMA to take our drug closer to the market. Bladder cancer market options are, I would say that this is a very open area. Bladder cancer has been declared by the FDA as a great unmet medical need. And we are aiming for patients with early bladder cancer that have actually just waiting for surgery at the moment, and they have very few other treatment options. So we see a possibility, there is a strong need. Key market players focus on advanced bladder cancer. There are many patients out there who need alternative treatments, and there is an actively growing cancer market. I know you all know that the numbers are more or less correct. I would also, before I finish, mention a second project that we are exploring, a project about Hamlet, which is the cow's milk version of Hamlet, very easy to make, very cheap, and where we have a great potential for development. We are currently focusing on production, toxicology, and regulatory for this molecule. And we are thinking of 2 indications that are immediately obvious. One, of course, per oral treatment of colon cancer in the drinking water, for example. And then oral cancers, where there currently is a great need for alternative treatments. And again, this process is supported continuously by our discovery and development platform in Hamlet Pharma. A few words about the financial situation in Hamlet. Some of you, I know, have been investors even since the start, the IPO at Spotlight Market. We have taken in money gradually. Last summer, a very successful share issue generated 50 million. So we are we are in a good position to continue our work. I would also like to highlight the fact that we were granted a Horizon 2020 grant from the EU. We had a very good run-through just a few months ago where they praised us because we were one of the few companies who had delivered our milestones despite the COVID pandemic. So the answer to the initial question, is it possible to treat cancer with better precision? We would like to say yes. Better precision, it is possible to treat at least bladder cancer without major side effects. And our molecule alpha-1H is one of the answers to this question. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Catharina. You mentioned the Horizon 2020 grant. How important is it for Hamlet?
It's important for Hamlet in two ways. First of all, it's extremely competitive, as you know. Only a few % of all the applications are actually awarded money. And it provides a third-party recognition of the quality of our work, which we are trying to talk about, but it's more understandable if it comes from somebody else. Also, it's become a motivation structure for us to actually keep the milestones, and we're extremely proud that we were able to do this under such difficult circumstances.
You should be proud. It's difficult, I know. So, investors, what can they hope for if they invest in your company?
Hamlet has been cheap and fast. We have reached where we are with very limited funding, I think, compared to many companies who develop a new drug all the way to the clinic. We know what we are doing, and we have a very consistent pattern of delivering results. So now it's the question about the next step in the clinical development, the FDA process, which we are taking very seriously and are working hard on, and then also partnering, because we are now in a position where we can say that this drug is working. And there's a question of finding a major partner that can help us with the final steps in the process.
Are you the only company that is basing your technology on the human milk protein?
Yes. I mean, now we are, of course, not basing it on the protein, but on a synthetic drug. It's important to get away from the connotation of a natural thing. This is a real drug, and it's synthetically made. I really appreciate your question. There has been, I mean, there's a world out there of different groups working on different complexes. I guess we are the most advanced in terms of trying to get this to the patient. Yes. It wasn't quite a response to your question, but almost.
It was, actually.
Thank you.
It's absolutely good enough.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your presentation, and best of luck.
Thank you for
Thank
the
you.
question.